Yo, what's good E7 fam? Pat here, back with another how to play video, and in this one we're going to be talking about the 8-year-old girl that somehow has given birth to a full-grown man. That's canon, by the way. You should look that up. I'm of course talking about Dizzy from the Guilty Gear Strive collab. If you've never seen my how to play videos, usually I try to cover everything you could possibly want to know about the character, but I decided to try a new format for this video. Hopefully you all enjoy it. If you hate it, for the love of God, please do not unsubscribe. That would hurt so much. With the introduction out of the way, let's move right on to Dizzy's stats. Dizzy is an ice mage of the Taurus zodiac symbol, which means she shares a stat line with Sage Ball and Cezanne, Solitary of the Snow, and Fairy Tale Tenebria. Taking a closer look at her stats, she has 1,039 attack, 5,299 health, 115 speed, 673 defense, 15% critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, 5% dual attack chance, 18% effectiveness, and 18% effect resistance. Very interesting stat line overall. The attack and health are quite low for the most part. She's not really meant to be a damage dealer with these kinds of stats, but she does have very solid speed and very good defense. Perhaps the most interesting thing about the character, though, is her initial effectiveness and effect resistance. This means that you can play her as a high effectiveness control mage, or you can play her very tanky with her high defense and high ER and make her kind of like a resistance tank for the most part. As a bit of trivia before moving on to the skill section, in every version of Guilty Gear, Dizzy is voiced by Kazue Fujita. From the original Guilty Gear all the way till now, and all of the collabs in between, it is always Kazue Fujita. Another couple interesting bits of trivia for you. Dizzy's birthday is actually Christmas Day, and she shares a birthday with Elphelt Valentine, who is also a collab character in Epic 7. Finally, Dizzy was the only character in Guilty Gear history to not have an instant kill, at least until Guilty Gear Xrd. Up until that point, Gamma Ray, which is actually the S2 skill that we'll be talking about, functioned similarly to her instant kill, and then obviously Emotional Gamma Ray became her instant kill in Guilty Gear Xrd. Dizzy's S1 is I use this to catch fish. This move has 13 startup frames, 8 active frames, and is minus 23 on block. It does 45 damage on hit. I use this to catch fish is primarily used as a combo ender. Roman canceling, I use this to catch fish, is one of the better uses of meter for Dizzy because her overdrives aren't particularly great for the most part. So yeah, if you want to get your offense started, just, Roman canceling it is a good way to do that. Dizzy's S2 is Gamma Ray. It is got 19 frames of startup, is active for a whopping 105 frames, so almost 2 whole seconds, but the downside is it's negative 61 on block, and that's going to be the major downfall of the move, and we'll talk about that in a second. It is a 34 hit attack with a total of 538 damage, which is almost your opponent's entire life bar. Yeah, you can see it's like 60% or so. It's a pretty hefty chunk. This move is largely referred to as Meme Ray because it's basically just not good. It's super unsafe on block. There's no real way to combo into it. You're, again, just better off using your meter for things like Roman canceling. Or you can use one of her other overdrives, for example, like Imperial Ray here is actually like decent as a way to get in. Way to set up things, basically. But yeah, just don't use Gamma Ray. It's a really bad move. Dizzy's instant kill, her S3, is Emotional Gamma Ray. It has 23 frames of startup and is active for 14 frames, but it is minus 12 on block. First, obviously, you have to go into the instant kill stance. Obviously, the biggest drawback to emotional gamma ray is the same drawback with all instant kills. Obviously, if you miss it here, you no longer have access to your tension gauge. So yeah, you don't have things like faultless defense, so you can be chipped out. We don't have access to our overdrives. We can't roam and cancel anymore. So like you just lose so many benefits from missing an instant kill. And considering this is Epic 7 and emotional gamma ray always misses, again, like regular gamma ray, it's trash. Just avoid using it in any actual competitive match. When it comes to Makoko Seed Priority, you're going to want to consider farming areas like Rithramis and Udia, as well as Lutera first and foremost. These are the maps that you start the game in, and as such, they're going to be really easy for new players to pick up the majority of the Makoko Seeds that you need. Remember, you want to get at least 300 Makoko Seeds as fast as possible so that you can get that extra skill point potion. At this point, some of you may be thinking, wait a minute, isn't this video just a glorified shitpost? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it is. Through the power of YouTube analytics, I know that a lot of people skip to the chapter that I mark character builds. There's a good chance that a large chunk of people watching this video probably are going to completely miss this entire section. So I'm going to continue on as if nothing happened, and we're going to see how long it takes for everyone else to get the joke. Ready? Dizzy used to be one of the best characters in Epic 7's history. When she first released, a lot of people built her really fast to capitalize on the debuffs from her S3 Emotional Gamma Ray. Then, they just sat back and watched as Dizzy stun locked and CR pushed back the entire enemy team until they were dead. As time went on, faster openers came out, and Dizzy started to rely more heavily on a counter-attacking build to accomplish her goals. Dizzy's S1, I'd use this to catch fish, when paired with a counter-attack set proved to be incredibly deadly. Having a potential AoE stun as your S1 apparently decides quite a fair number of games. You can actually see this move's effect on the game's design space in other characters. If you've ever read the sentence, when it is the caster's turn on an S1, you can thank Dizzy for that. While Dizzy has fallen on some hard times, thanks to the popularity of Immunity Set, as well as premier cleansers like Mediator Coeric, that doesn't mean you can't pick her as a surprise last pick in RTA and lock down an entire team. Most of Dizzy's builds are old-fashioned, but they're still very effective, like the one that I'm going to show you in this video. For the primary sets, we want to be on Violent Runes as well as Revenge Runes. This gives Dizzy the most amount of turns possible, as well as gives her as many counter-attacking opportunities as possible. We do not want to be playing things like Blade Runes on Dizzy, as she doesn't really rely on critical hits. That is basically a wasted set. So I personally would play Violent Runes with Revenge Runes if possible. Taking a look at the desired stats, we have 2,420 attack. This is so that she does some amount of damage. She doesn't hit like a wet noodle. We have 1,420 defense. This is somewhere between where I normally always talk about with bruisers. You want somewhere between like 1,200 to 1,500. I felt like going a little bit higher towards 1,500 would give her that extra survivability. For health, we have 20,420, and that is again specifically so we can get that huge bulk on the character. We just want her to be a thick girl and just sit on the board and not really take a lot of damage. As long as she's on the board, we can still win the game. For speed, I have left her at the base values. I had to make some sacrifices somewhere, so I decided speed would probably be the best, place to cut it. Honestly, I'd rather would again just have way more bulk. Again, we don't land critical strikes, so we don't have any critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Those are at the base values. And since she has high starting effectiveness as well as high starting effect resistance, I leave it to you which one you really want to max out. I have put them both at 69%. That gives you a decent spread for the most part against a lot of people. With 69% defense, you'll at least be able to land most debuffs against a lot of the carries in the game, the DPSs and stuff. They don't really build a lot of effect resistance, and at 69% effect resistance, you're not really going to be running into a lot of the carries debuffs that they have on their moves. Things like Remnant Violet S1 has blind, things like that. You will just basically be able to resist those, or at least have a good shot of resisting them. So again, it's going to be your choice whether or not you want to go for a full effect resistance build or a full effectiveness build. Taking a look at the right side gear, I have HP percentage neck, HP percentage ring, and HP percentage boots. Again, we want to just make this girl as thick as possible, as hard to get off the board as possible, which is why I've decided to go with triple HP percentage. Again, I just don't think you need speed on this character whatsoever. If you want to go for it, by all means, you are welcome to do so. When we take a look at the artifacts here, we have Lightning Greaves as the one that I am assuming that you are on, and this is for a very good reason. Almost everyone has access to Lightning Greaves. They come in most pre-constructed commander decks, and they provide Shroud to your Dizzy, which means that she won't be able to be targeted by a lot of single target removal, and it also gives her haste so that way she can kind of get the ball rolling as soon as she enters the battlefield. After that, you have a couple other options that you can consider. Things like Wishclaw Talisman are great for people who play competitive EDH because it is a tutor and it allows you to find specific combos with your Dizzy in order to win the game in one turn. And then if you're somebody who's more of a traditional 1v1 style of player, consider something like Icy Manipulator as your artifact because it allows you to tap down a lot of creatures. Dizzy is a very controlling character by nature, and it lends itself perfectly to the kind of strategy that she is looking to accomplish. Taking a look at the per piece average, we have 12% attack, 12% HP, 13% defense, and I leave it to you to get some effectiveness or effect resistance. It should be 9% if you're only hyper focusing on one, but if you're trying to go for the 69-69 split, then you're going to need to go 18% on either effectiveness or effect resistance on one piece, and then try and get 18% of the other on another piece somewhere else. So that way you have a nice 3-3 split on your gear. When it comes to teammates, Dizzy is looking for two things in particular. The first of which is protection, so that she can safely execute her game plan. And the second is going to be a way to start her offense. For protection, the best option, in my opinion, is Testament. They are literally Dizzy's guardian. If you have Testament, there is no reason to not play them. They are the best person for the actual job. For budget options, you can consider things like Cloud Strife with the cover materia. It is only a percentage chance that he jumps in front of Dizzy and actually protects her, but some protection is better than nothing. And the other budget option you can choose is Troublemaker Crozet, because I literally put him in every single one of my how to play videos. For offensive starters, I think for most free-to-play players and budget-friendly players, Frank West is going to be the best option because the shopping cart assist is literally ridiculous. It just lets you get in for free in a lot of scenarios. So that's why I really, really like it. But for you whales out there who have access to everything, I think the Wild Draw 4 card is going to be the absolute best option. It's pretty overpowered, and honestly, it needs a nerf at the end of the day. So you might as well use it before it actually ends up getting that nerf hammer. When it comes to good matchups, Dizzy has a very defined niche, so to speak. She is a character that is a control mage and a zoner first and foremost, so you really want to be playing her against these slow characters that don't have a lot of range for the most part. Think of grapplers, characters like Potemkin, Iron Tiger, Kanji Tatsumi, and Darius. Potemkin really only has a way to interact with you through Hammerfall if you're playing the game correctly. So as long as you are basically keeping him out, he should pose no real threat to you. Iron Tiger is a little bit trickier. He has Spark Bolt as well as his magnetism mechanic. If you end up getting magnetized, you're probably going to lose the match. So as long as you're on the lookout for those moves, it should be a fairly easy matchup. For Kanji Tatsumi, it's a very similar story. As long as you're able to avoid any of his persona-based attacks using Take Mikazuchi, you'll probably be fine and won't really have too many issues. And then Darius really only has Apprehend to kind of pull you close to him to do his whole big combo. And once that's on cooldown, he doesn't really pose any real threat to you. As long as you just keep him at long range and don't really, step into the range of his axe, you'll probably be okay. Dizzy used to be the most overpowered character in all of Epic 7, but you know how the story goes. Power creep happens as time goes on, and she falls further and further down the ladder as more and more OP characters have shown themselves, and a lot of the OP characters I'm going to be talking about in this section are really, really terrible matchups for her. First off, we want to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a really bad matchup for Dizzy. He is way faster than her. He can get in an instant. He can run circles around her. And he has a pretty competent camping game for the most part. So he can end up actually out controlling you, the Dizzy player. So I really think you should avoid him, especially on Wi-Fi due to the lag switch tactics. It makes things just absolutely miserable. So I would avoid him at all costs. Speaking of characters you don't want to deal with, Calliope Mori is also a really bad matchup for Dizzy. She is the Grim Reaper's first apprentice and therefore basically death. She's immortal. Dizzy simply just doesn't have the tools to actually deal with the character, and as such, you should probably just either avoid her or ban her whenever possible. Literally, the only reason to not ban her is if you feel like listening to her music, but YouTube is there for that, so I don't know what the hell you're doing. And then finally, of course, the last bad matchup to highlight is Speedwagon, because he's best girl. Like, Speedwagon is best girl. What do you mean you don't understand why he's best girl? Have you never seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? You've never watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, hold on. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to clear your entire schedule. You're going to open up Netflix. You're going to search, and you're going to go up here to the search bar and type in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And you're going to go over here, and you're going to start with Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency, the first 2 seasons. And you're going to watch like 10 episodes of this right now, and you're going to thank me later, okay? It is life-changing. Come back after you've watched like the first 10 episodes and let me know down in the comments below how life-changing of an experience it was for you. Again, you can thank me later. And that is not gonna do it for how to play Dizzy. I still had a lot of fun making this video. I'm sure some of you probably hate my guts right now. That's fine. If you actually want to know how to play Dizzy, you can check out my Discord, which will be linked down in the description. I will be more than happy to provide stat lines and gear sets for Dizzy if you actually really want to know how to play the character. She's just not in a very good spot in the meta right now. There's very few places, if at all, you can actually use her and be effective, at least as far as PvP goes. I usually try to cover characters that are good in both PvP and PvE. That's not always necessarily the case, but you get the point. If you want actual help and guides for Epic 7 characters that are not joke videos like this one, you can check out a playlist which should be on your screen in the top left-hand corner or the bottom left-hand corner. Now, as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I will catch you all next week in an actual how to play video. Later.